Might help if I actually do this.
Maybe,
Jon, yeah, I know. Sorry about the delays. It's me and technology. Jon, here you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. We're live in Athens for a very special evening involving soccer, and not just soccer as it is here at UGA. It's not just soccer as we know it when it comes to the college game. There's a number, and actually, and if I had a proper device, we could show it to you. But there are masses of people that are trying to get in here to Sanford Stadium because it is soccer in Sanford, and it's going to be at the top of the hour. Our friends at SEC Network, Glenn Davis, Joe Lloyd, and Marion Crowder, they're going to be on the call. It's a bit of a homecoming for Marion, and we've got some fun things to get caught up with here over the next little bit. We've got to be out by 6:50 because that's when the pomp and circumstance happens. So, Maddie, what is going on in your mind as we get ready for this very special night?
No, I'm excited. I think especially like when you look at everything going forward, I mean, I think it's huge not only for, I think, UGA specifically. I think it's huge for women's soccer, I think, in the state. I think it's huge for women's soccer, I think, all over the nation. I think it's huge, especially when you're looking at the state, like the stakes for tonight. When you look at everything going on tonight, it's one where when we take a look at it, I mean, UGA is trying to break 3 records. Not only the attendance record for a women's regular season match in NCAA for women's soccer,
Yep.
Also in postseason overall, an overall record of attendance in women's soccer, but also trying to break a NCAA men's attendance record that was set in 1980. And I mean, listen, just from what I'm seeing right now, that might happen.
Yes.
Which gets you excited. It's cool.
We have heard numbers north of 30,000 right now. We've heard, when Marion Crowder was with us, you'll hear a bit of that interview that we had with her this week coming up in a bit. We've heard numbers north of 35. We've heard that it's mandatory if you're a student athlete on the football team that you have to be here. So I wonder what it's going to look like here at Dooley Field coming up here in just a little bit. When we get the lineups for both teams, we'll let you know what's going on here. But let's say we not mess around anymore.
No, I don't think we should. Not at all.
So we have an interview. We caught up with 3 folks this week that you're going to hear from between now and 6:50. It's going to be Josh Walters, the head coach at James Madison. It's going to be Marion Crowder, who's going to be patrolling the sidelines, and she wants like SPF 9,000 and maybe a hat by the time the night's over. And the head coach at the University of Georgia, Keidane McAlpine. We caught up with him. And so if you would please hit number 6. And there's our conversation with Keidane McAlpine, part of it from SDH AM.
Takeaway from the weekend, we got a lot of new faces and trying to piece them together and have them play well in the first 2 games when your exhibition gets canceled is not the easiest thing to do, especially on the road. But I like our pieces. I think we had some moments where we looked the part. We looked like we're going to be able to put this thing together really well, and we will grow. There's no doubt about it. But I really like our pieces. Some of our young players and new players played really well in spurts. We just weren't consistent throughout the 90 minutes, and that's how it works in this game. If you're not, then it's going to be tough to get the result.
Well, and at the same time, you mentioned all of the younger players coming in, the underclassmen, and those that are coming in that are still trying to get adjusted to the McAlpine way. I'll go ahead and put that in quotes and
I appreciate that.
In italics. You know, the McAlpine way. I need like reverb, you know, to for the emphasis. But when it comes to integrating and understanding what you're looking for at 100%, where do you think they are in the process? I know it's going to be a consistently learning process as the season goes along, but now that the season has started, where do you think their learning curve is right now as they're playing matches that count?
You know what? I would say we're probably 75% of the way there. I think we're the things that really can kill you is lining up for set pieces correctly, getting to the right spots. A lot of that stuff is actually happening. So I feel pretty confident. Okay. Some of the hardest things to do, some of the things that can really break games, we're doing pretty well. Now it's chemistry, it's rhythm. What is this player like? What is that player like? Okay, I'm in the right space. Based on the way this team is defending us, what's the read, right? Little things like that I think are happening that with time together, with time in this group, with a little bit more film, it'll start to make sense, and we'll start to not necessarily react, but actually make things happen the way we need them to play.
With the graduate students in the 5th years and the seniors, how are they helping you out there on the pitch, whether it's at practice or in game? How are the upperclassmen helping the underclassmen understand and translate what you want to have them do?
A lot of it is just getting people in the spots. It's the communication, it's the encouragement. Hey, get to the spot, go, 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 go. Right. Like those little moments where like, hey, I need you to move, right? It's communication. And then it's the sidebar conversation at a break. It's the moments where they can whisper instead of having me yell all the time, right? They can whisper and go, hey, when this happens, I need this and this and this. When that happens, we need you to do this. They are teaching along the way. So we've got it's multi-layered. And I think every team, knows that if you're not getting that, you're not really optimizing your growth. And I think we're starting to see some of those things happen, but we just need games.
And speaking of which, since you're kind of leaning right into it, next one for you, James Madison, Sanford Stadium. I've heard of this location, and it is a celebration on multiple fronts. And what has it been like for you and for the staff and for the university? I mean, obviously, Coach Smart was saying, hey, get your butt over to the stadium to watch the game and everything. What has it been like for you and the university while you're playing in the B1G and you got games that matter, still trying to sit there and get everything squared away for what is going to be a fantastic event on Thursday? What is it like having to clone yourself to have to work two sides of the street?
Luckily, I've got great staff, right? And so a lot of moving parts, but honestly, from President Moorhead down, everybody has jumped on board to try to make this one of the most unbelievable experiences, not only for the players in the game, but for people that come to the game to pay homage to an event that propelled soccer as we know it here in the States forward. And then you look into the 99ers and so on and so forth. And so it's been really, really exciting, humbling in a way to have this many people pushing so hard to make this an unbelievable night.
And you look at these are the target numbers for folks that are wandering into the door, other than the main target number that you want to be like 92,000, obviously.
I know, right?
76,481 were there August 1st of 96 when it was the gold medal match in the Olympics then. But the target numbers when it comes to college set in 1999, 14,410. The men's record set in 1980, 22,512. And you were part of setting the regular season attendance record when the folks that were in downtown Los Angeles over next to the Mausoleum, they were playing the hallowed halls of Ucla back in 2017. What do you remember about that game where 11,925 were looking at a crosstown matchup of two schools that really do not like each other when USC played UCLA?
Honestly, the funny part about it is we were fortunate enough to play that rivalry in the Coliseum at UCLA, at Dignity Health. We've played it in 3 places. So we averaged about 8,500 people for that matchup. So to be there and to be in that night, it was every time we did it, it was unbelievable. The energy, the best part are the little kids. To hear them celebrate each and every play, the oohs, the ahs, because one of those little girls are going to be on the field in that matchup sometime in the future. It was the best part because you could hear it, every little shriel and moment. They were all into the games, and that's what it's all about, pushing this thing forward.
And what a lot of folks may not know is that the head coach of James Madison now, and we're going to catch up with him Thursday morning, Joshua Walters Sr., he was also UCLA's associate head coach then. Mm-hmm. So pairing this matchup up, it was like, I imagine you called Joshua and it's like, hey, dude, let's do something. And I'm sure that he dove in. He's like, yeah, let's go ahead and rock and roll. What were those conversations like with him with James Madison?
It was exactly that. Once we looked at the schedule, I was like, oh, this works out. Okay, James Madison. Oh, that's Josh. I don't need to worry about that guy, right? He'll be on board. And so as soon as I picked up the phone, say, Josh, this is moving. I've gotten all the people on board. Are you in? He's like, yeah, just tell me where to be, when to be, how to be, and done. And it was over just like that. And so, and he's been great on every platform and moment that he's had to press it. He's pushed it. So, we both, I think, recognize this is bigger than us. It's great for our players and our women, but it's bigger than that, because here we are. We have U.S. Soccer moving into Georgia. We've got Atlanta, NWSL Atlanta being here, right? We've got another push with the Women's World Cup coming in 2027, coming off the Men's World Cup that was so successful. We've got this energy that's happening right now as the NWSL is establishing itself again and continuing to add teams, and the valuations are going up. Like this is hopefully one of those moments where we can take the collegiate game and push it forward in a similar way to have more eyes on it, because we do have so many women that are they do the work, and they deserve to get crowds at their games too.
How do you get yourself and the players to enjoy the experience, knowing that there's a win, a loss, or a draw attached to it, but understanding the gravity of the moment, understanding that, I want you to enjoy yourself because of the impact that you can make as a role model on the field before and after this entire week, and then the after effects. How do you balance all of that, but still not get caught up in the moment when you're going to have 127,000 people yelling down onto the field on a special moment on Thursday? How do you keep from getting wrapped up in it, knowing that you might have one of those moments you look up and you go, man, there's a lot of people here?
Yeah, the goal is to have them just lock in on the task at hand, play, and just by playing, you will accomplish a lot of the things that we're talking about. And then there will be a point where I stop and I tell them, hey, look up, take a deep breath.
Okay.
Experience. Don't forget what this feels like, because I think, all of them have aspirations of playing at another level and all the things, but there's a chance for some of them that may not be a moment that they will ever experience again. And I do think there's an importance of stopping, looking, appreciating, and then getting to work. And I'll never forget the first time we did it at the Coliseum. As the fans rolled in, I did it with our staff, and I'm like, hey man, look, let's stop for a second. I know this game is going, and we were underdogs at that time. That was a fantastic UCLA team that we were playing that night, but and we had just gotten there. But it was one of those things. Once you stop and listen and take it in, you don't forget it. You don't forget the feeling. You don't forget the goosebumps. You don't forget the sound of it. And I want to make sure that we at least take the time to experience it, because there is something about being present and then giving your best, because you understand the space that you're in.
So that's Keidane McAlpine, part of the conversation that we got to have with him on SDH AM.
It's huge. I mean, he's not wrong, especially with a matchup like this, with the implications that it has, with how much weight is there too. It's a big one, but you do want to, take a second to stop and just kind of take it in and take a breath. I mean,
Maddie's been taking a lot of pictures.
I've been taking a lot of pictures. I've also been taking a lot of deep breaths. This is cool for me. I mean, most people know, most of my family, almost all of them, were all Georgia fans. Honorary Hootie Hoot as well, too. But I grew up a Georgia fan, and so I grew up coming to Sanford Stadium, for football games and to see Kirby Smart and everything else. But I mean, even being last year or a year before, the Georgia Tech game where it was freezing and they went to how many overtimes? Anyway, let's not gonna talk about it. But yep. I mean, I know for me, it's really cool being here. I think getting the chance to witness history. I think getting to witness also, I think the women's game front and center as well is huge. And, I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now. I know I am. But it also brings another added element too. We're focusing on this game, but Keidane's, talking about, taking that moment in, but also getting back to business, because after this one, you're back at UGA Soccer Stadium for Sunday for Milwaukee, another big game. It's senior day too. So you got to, take this one, take it, get the job done, and then look ahead, especially keeping things going. But for right now, you want to take a breath and you want to just, soak it all in as fans continue to make their way into Sanford Stadium for this one.
And the band.
And the band, guys, we got the Red Coat Band. They're here.
Horn section specifically. One person who's going to be patrolling the sidelines for SEC Network tonight means a lot to her too. 4 letters, 4 years, and she's in a lot of the top 10s in the history of UGA soccer. Marion Crowder, she's on the sidelines. We caught up with her after she was done at practice, heading back to try and do study hall. Here's part of that conversation from SDH AM.
I mean, what a welcome into the show. I couldn't have written a better resume than that.
It's true. There's no shenanigan there.
I absolutely love being back here, my friend. How are you?
Trying to stay as busy as you.
Yeah. I think you actually got us because you're going to be in Sanford with us tomorrow, right?
Absolutely true.
There
We
you
got
go.
pregame show at 6. We're going to go from 6 to 6:50, and then we yield the floor to something called the SEC Network for James Madison in Georgia, and that's going to be fun. And I hope there's like 97 bazillion people there. I really
Me
do.
too. Oh my goodness, me too. I was actually at practice this morning at UGA's practice this morning, and they've already sold more than 30,000. Who knows how many of that will actually show up, but the numbers are looking really good.
So how was Keidane and everybody there getting ready for this one? Are they focused more on the game? Is it kind of hovering over them? Is it over the shoulder? What's the vibe?
Yeah, the general I was actually telling, so Joe Lloyd and Glenn Davis will actually be in the booth, as you well know. I'll be down there on the sideline. And so anytime that I'm a reporter, I kind of operate in a little bit of a different capacity than I do as an analyst. And so much of being a reporter is just kind of understanding the general, emotional intelligence behind what the occasion is, seeing kind of what the preparation looks like. And I actually was privy enough to sit in on film today, privy enough to watch practice today. And I will tell you that I know Keidane is very focused on the occasion, right? I asked him, I said, I'm going to ask you the same question tomorrow before we go on air to describe kind of what you're feeling right now. And I want to see if it changes from this 24-hour mark to the moments leading up to kickoff. And he told me that he just feels so much pride, right? He just feels so much pride in so many different aspects because of the way that this has come together, because of kind of the support he has had from current players, past players, the administration as a whole. So for him, I think there's a lot of focus on the occasion. But for the team, they were very diligent with their film. It was very James Madison focused. And I was actually chatting with Joe Lloyden this morning, and I told her, I said, man, this group just loves to win. They're playing a couple small-sided games to warm up. They did a little 11v0, and I have never seen a group of college soccer players just so excited to win every single activity. So for them, I feel like, because you also have to remember, they didn't have exhibition games. They actually, the University of Georgia, they had some scheduled, and then weather delays, some travel issues, some scheduling changes. So the opening weekend, which for them was last weekend on the road, it was a little tough. And Keidane felt like the exhibitions were actually played last weekend. And so I think for them, now that they've kind of started the season, this is not only a momentous occasion, but for them, they're like, we want to win. We should win. And that was kind of the vibe I got today at training.
All right. So if you and I were in the booth, I'm moving us upstairs.
Okay.
Not that I don't love Glenn, because because Glenn is another OG of ours, and but we know that it's going to be Glenn and Jill and you downstairs. So if you and I are upstairs, and I know that standard protocol is going to be title over wide, and hey, here's who's playing, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
2 shot in the booth. Then we go to players to watch. Then that's when you're either going to get the split screen or you're going to go from player 1 wipe to player 2. We know that there's going to be those players that are going to be there. Give me a UGA player that will not be in that opening VO, in that opening highlight package, that you think will be just as important as the player to watch that will be discussed upstairs if you and I were doing it.
Yeah, so I think for Georgia, and they've already struggled with a couple of early injuries, but I think for them, the depth up top is going to be of a lot of importance, because I think that the way that they're going to try and press, really not only tomorrow, but throughout the season, is going to have a lot of fatigue involved in it. And with that, you're going to need some depth through the 90 minutes. So Maya Wolf, for me, is a player who can play a little bit of everything. I think that she looked really, really good, gave them a boost in the moments that they needed to have this weekend. And here's what he said, John. Here's what he said. And I don't think he would mind me sharing this.
No.
He told them at the end of film, he said, I want you to realize that when we're at home and we don't have to pick who's traveling, we don't have to pick who's coming on the road, every single player is available. So know your roles, know your responsibilities, and know that if and when your number gets called, we expect the same standard of you. Every player is available. So it wouldn't surprise me if Keidane, again, given some of the early injuries, shuffles the team around a bit and see which of these young players, because he's got a ton of young talent, see which of the young talent actually doesn't look like a deer in the headlights, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And, for those that may not know the history here, you have a bit of an attachment to said program
Yes, I do.
because you have worn the jersey. You know what it means to be a Georgia Bulldog. What is it like for you to be back and to see what's going on, considering that in 3 of the 4 years that you were in a UGA uniform, you led the team in points, 2013, 2015, and 2016. And look, you had you led them in game winner categories. You lead them shots in 2016. I get the giggling here, and I say this because you know what it means on one level.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of getting to look in the looking glass here a little bit because of all the time that you've spent in and around this program. What has it been like for you to be locked in, but at the same time see where the sport is now from a place where you played?
That's a great question. And I feel like I echo exactly what Keidane feels. Now we feel it in 2 different varieties. He feels pride for a lot of what he's been able to accomplish and a vision that he has been able to see come to life now. I feel pride in the sense that I have seen a drastic change in the program, a program that, as you said, has meant so much to me. And I think you have to understand, which you will get, but for our listeners, you have to understand how much talent is in and around the state of Georgia. You have to understand the big things that are coming to the state of Georgia. An NWSL team is coming in just a few years. US Soccer is moving and making Georgia, their headquarters. And so when you think about all these things that are happening outside of the program itself, it really helps paint the picture of just how much quality and just how much importance and value that there's placed on this sport in that state. Then when I pair it with, kind of as you introduced me to, when I pair it as the opportunities that just going to that university has afforded me and the pathway that it has paved for me to get to where I'm at right now, I cannot help but feel, and for a few years I felt like this, really since I graduated. I could not help but feel a sense of frustration, right? That the program that should be, could be, eventually will be one of the best in the country. Places where you have, as a player, you have these opportunities that not many people can talk about. And you have the support of an entire athletic department behind you. And for a long time, I'm not sure that I felt like that about the University of Georgia soccer program specifically. There have always been great people in that program, but now the willingness to spend the money, first and foremost, to hire Keidane.
Mm-hmm.
Now the willingness to support his vision and trust that he's done this a time or two. He knows what it takes to win a national championship. And he also understands how to piggyback off of the larger soccer events in our country. And the fact that they have just said, you got an idea? You bring us that idea, we'll help you make it happen, and we won't stand in your way. There's an immense amount of pride for me. And then when I was watching training today, just seeing the talent, they are good. I know they're young, but man, they are good. And if you look at the young players that he brought in, it's, all kinds of players from all kinds of different youth national teams. And so now finally you've got this hierarchy of support from the administration. You've got the talent that now matches it. And now it's just about finding a way to actually get the results that kind of mesh those 2 things together. So for me, I feel like the best word is pride. It's a very different pride than Keidane feels, but I finally feel like this program is on the trajectory that it always should have been.
By the way, for those that may not know, 4th in career points with 65. 3rd in career goals with 29.
I need somebody to break that. I feel like I've been third in career goals for a long time, and I feel like we need to somebody to shoot on up there.
Well, Summer Denigan had 22 and 25.
Yeah.
So she's so you got that number behind you. And let's see, third in game winners in a career at 13. And like I said, I'm just sitting here staring at a bunch of numbers. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help out and where you're not in the top 10 assists. Come on now, what happened?
I know. You know what? When I was so I went through a coaching change. A lot of people won't know this too. So I went through a coaching change my junior year. So I had a different coach freshman, sophomore year, different coaching staff junior, senior. And when we transitioned into a second coaching staff, we just struggled in general to find an identity. We were playing all kinds of different formations, and people often ask me, I never knew that this was a question I would start to get as I got like a little higher in the ESPN ranks.
Yeah.
But the question that everybody asked me is, well, what position did you play? And I didn't realize how important of a question that was going to be. I just kind of answer like, well, honestly, we struggled to win some, so I just kind of roamed around and just tried to find any kind of space I could. So yeah, that's probably why the assist one is way down there. I was probably just trying to get behind the back line.
But formations are a loose construct anyway. It's not something
Now they are for sure.
It's like so. And by the way, you're only 7th in shots. What happened there?
Hey, yeah, but shots on target are the ones that's most important, right? Right?
True. The other half of this equation is someone who also gets it in James Madison. And
oh yeah.
When you've been studying the Dukes, what has come to mind in this? We're catching up with them tomorrow morning, by the way, batting lead up. When you've gone to study hall with James Madison, what sticks?
Yeah, I feel like for them, they know who they are first and foremost. And I feel like in a mid-major, having a very clear identity helps you in two ways. It obviously helps you win some of these bigger top 25 matchups because that is of massive importance for getting them into the NCAA tournament as one of those at-large bids. But it also helps from a recruiting standpoint because now with the transfer portal, no school is off limits, right? So you have kind of two facets. You have players who start out at a smaller school, they go into a bigger school, and then maybe they come back because they feel like the bigger school isn't for them. Or you have the kids who start out as a hot recruit. They don't get a lot of playing time. They don't really want to sit the bench. And then they want to go look for a quality program that's a little bit smaller. JMU fits a lot of the criteria for players on both sides. And so for them having a clear identity really helps, in my opinion, the recruiting process. It helps the transfer portal process. And they're ambitious. I mean, they really want to play with the ball. They want to have the ball at their feet. They have clear movement patterns for the way that they want to break teams down, but they're also quite ambitious going forward. And I think that's what makes tomorrow's game so exciting is how many numbers JMU typically pushes forward versus how susceptible that leaves them behind the ball. And Georgia is a team that's got a lot of kids with a lot of pace up front. So I think it'll be a little bit of a cat and mouse game between those two head coaches who know each other quite well. I know you and I have talked about this. Josh and Keidane go way back. They have sold out many stadiums in their time in the West Coast, but Josh actually has plenty of Southeastern soccer connections. His wife, in fact, played at Ole Miss back in the day. So he couldn't. He told us that when Keidane came to him with this idea, he couldn't have been more ecstatic, and he couldn't have. He almost felt like it was fate, right? Because they'd done it so much on the West Coast that it just made sense for it to be those two doing it now on the South. So I was just really impressed hearing everything about their program and hearing just the clear-cut ambitions, the clear-cut goals, and the clear-cut identity that he set out for this program.
Marion Crowder, part of the broadcast team with our friend Glenn Davis and Joe Lloyden tonight. So we're in a no dilly, no dally zone. One more interview to go, and it's the other half of the equation. We're going to catch up with the head coach on the girls' side, Josh Walters, find out what it's been like for him to be a part of this as the Dukes get ready tonight here in Athens.
Absolutely. We had the match scheduled ahead of time, and he floated the idea and was like, I don't know if I can get permission or not. Would you be up for it? And it wasn't even a pause in the conversation. I was like, yep, we're there. Like, let's do it.
So what has the build been like since it's early in your 26th season? And I guess how do you keep your roster from looking up into the stands and getting a little north-south, neck muscle cramps and things like that? How do you prevent this and try to get them to work on the task at hand? Or do you embrace the moment and have them understand, there's going to be 9 bazillion people here, just enjoy it?
Yeah, from experience, you embrace the moment. It's a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's something that they'll definitely think it's about. They'll talk about later. It'll be something they remember, regardless of what happens in the match. That it's going to be a special moment for them. So we say embrace it. We're saying look up, enjoy, play.
Hey, let's talk about play. 25 season, life in the Fun Belt. We know that it can go sideways, and it usually does on any given match day. 9-4-6, you lose in PKs in the opening round of the conference tournament. When you look back at 25, what were the lessons that you learned from 25 that you brought forward to 26?
Yeah, sometimes I hate this game. So we if you go back to 24, we went on a great run and won the double. We won the regular season league and then the tournament. In that tournament, we actually won in penalties against ULM in a game where we missed the first 2 penalties, and then somehow miraculously came back and scored it and went on to win. But no one talks about that. And then the next year, we get in the conference tournament against Texas State, who we had played the week prior, and we actually created more XG in that game than any game I've coached at JMU. So we were almost 4 XG in that game, really close to it. And we scored 1. In that moment, if we play that game 10 times, I would like to think we win 8 of those or so. But on that day, Texas State got 1 and took it to pins and won in penalties. So that season could have had a different ending. Texas State went on and won the conference tournament, and we were nearly there. So in my mind, it wasn't that it wasn't a success, but that maybe we ran out of time a little bit.
1-1 coming into this one, and it's matches that you've had back home in Harrisonburg. It was a 3-1 loss to NC State and a 2-1 win against George Mason. What have you learned about yourself so far in those two?
Yeah, we got it handed to us a little bit in the NC State game, where their tactics and their hunger in the game was greater than ours. And the kids responded so well for the George Mason game in the next game, and we fixed a few things along the way. But credit NC State, they were fantastic. And Gary's done such a good job there. We've never played against a goalkeeper that was 45 yards out of goal between the 2 center backs. And our kids were looking at me like, hey, what do we do? And I was like, I haven't prepared you for that yet. No one's done that. So it became another thing we put into the tool belt for the next time this happens. Here's what you do.
And you end up with this matchup here. What has study hall been like getting ready for this one? I imagine there might have been a subscription to B1G Plus and trying to figure out what Keidane been doing so far this year. What's study hall been like getting ready for him?
Yeah, I went to the track coach and said, hey, can we borrow your track shoes? We think we need to be able to run a little bit. And they're so athletic and so tall as part of it. And Keidane always is a coach who is trying to maximize what his players can do, both in shape and tactics and ability. And I see that year after year. He did it with his USC teams. He's doing it with his Georgia teams here. So they're a lot to take on. If you try to just sit on them, they're athletic enough that they'll get you. If you try to completely press them, they might run by you. So you have to pick your times and you have to manage the game. And we're going to go after it with courage for sure.
I was going to ask because, when you have the two approaches or the two ideas of trying to figure out, okay, so I know he does this and I know he does this, and you got to try and pick your spots. How delicate is that on the road in an environment that you anticipate is going to be what it is? How delicate a task is that going to be?
Yeah, I kind of expect the first 10 minutes of the game to be chaotic in that environment, nerves and all those things. So my hope is that kind of survive the first 10 minutes in terms of not making those kind of mistakes and just go after it, and then settle the game down and try to play it the way we want to. So for approaching them, they typically play a 3-back. So, how do you manage that? They tend to have 3 up top, so, you're going to leave yourself even or +1 if I play a 3-back. So a lot of decisions in there and the way to handle it. And so we've kind of created a plan A and a plan B. We always do this, so we have the ability to, with one word from the sideline, change the shape or changed the idea of both our press, our mid block, both the build also, and actually stole that from Jesse Marsh when he was at Red Bull. I got a chance to go hang out with him, and they would have a press and an alternate press. They would have a build and an alternate build. And so we just prepare our team that way so that we can transition hopefully quickly into something if we need to.
So you mentioned that it could be a word that could be the trigger. If you've got 9 bazillion people in the stands, I would imagine communication is going to be a little difficult at times, especially in that first 10 minutes that you're talking about. How do you turn it into the game of telephone where they hear what you're saying instead of hearing something and then telephone and they tell something and it's not the right word? How do you worry about communication in an environment that you anticipate is going to be what it is?
Yeah, the KISS method. What I learned in the Army, just keep it simple, stupid. So if we're going to change something, we just, like especially in the press or whatever, we'll change to number 2. So just hold up the 2 and then they can go. Hopefully Keidane doesn't think that means fight on like the good old days. But
yes. Oh, that's fantastic. You mentioned your time in the Army. And first and foremost, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
When it came to your time there, how did that help you as the coach that you are now? How did those early days there serving our nation help you with being the coach that you are? And I'm not just talking necessarily X's and O's, but personality and carriage and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think I'm different in terms of I kind of frame things different. I don't think of soccer as the end of everything. It's just part of your journey of who you are. So with the players, I often am framing the bigger picture, because I've seen a bigger picture. I've been part of a bigger picture with those kind of things. So, what lesson are we learning from this? How does this help us? Win, loss, tie, whatever. Then I would say I'm very, very organized. Our entire season is planned out, from how we have our periodization to when training sessions are going to be. So that everybody can live their lives just the same way it was in the Army. And I often believe and was taught this, that if you make a plan and something changes, it's really easy for people to adjust because you had a plan and they understood what was going on. When you live in chaos sometimes and then you try to change something, it just creates more chaos. So we believe in that a lot in trying to create a plan. I also know from my time in the military that you need a lot of people. It's not a singular leader. So I hire very good people, and then I empower them to do a job for us for the benefit of the team or for whatever their skill set is across the board. And it's kind of shown. I've had a lot of coaches at JMU who've gone on to bigger platforms. I have 2 coaches who are in the NWSL now. There are 3 Division I head coaches in the 8 years at JMU, and 1 men's NAI head coach. So I think what we're doing and how we're preparing coaches and players is definitely fruitful here.
What's it like having that kind of a coaching tree start for you?
It's wild. I never imagined in such a short period of time. I told my AD when the first one started leaving or whatever at the time, I was like, we need to pay more money. I need them to stay, but it's been really cool helping them on their journey and being part of it, and watching them go on to be successful. All of them have been successful in some way, shape, or form, and how they're doing the programs. And sometimes they do similar things to the way we do, and sometimes they follow their own path. But it's been really cool. Every one of them has texted me about this game, so I still feel that kinship from them.
Well, you mentioned the growth of the game and your coaching tree. What has it been like for you to be able to grow the game worldwide, basically? Because of your time in Afghanistan, you were fortunate enough to help grow the game there and have the game exposed to folks that may not necessarily have had the means or the opportunity to do it there. So you got to do it while you were serving in Afghanistan. And then here domestically in the college game, where you've had the big games against Keidane, USC, UCLA, whether it's at the Mausoleum or if it's in Carson, and now you're getting the chance to grow it on the East Coast. What's it been like for you as all of these different places you've been able to touch and see where the game has gone from your interactions with it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's probably influenced me more than I've influenced anybody else, being able to take different things. So I never imagined going to Afghanistan would be the reason why I became a college coach. Like, that's such an untraditional path. used soccer on a one-off thing. And there's a Marine that was out there with us who brought the idea to me and was like, hey, we should go in this village and help these kids with soccer. So we demined an area and it paid off. Like the kids eventually told us where some weapons were. And after that, like they would let me do anything soccer I wanted. And because of that, I sent an email to a couple coaching friends asking for some soccer applies. And Anson at Carolina actually sent it to someone in the United Soccer Coaches, the NSCA at the time, and they took the email and wrote an article about it. And that's the reason why I became a college coach. You know, I was a club and a high school coach, and Anson helped me get my first interview. I sat on a bunker in Tarin Kowt, Afghanistan, on a satellite phone at 2:00 in the morning and interviewed. And then whenever I was done and came back after a year, I drove straight to Houston and was at the University of Houston at the beginning. So wild that all of that stuff happened that way. I never would have written it out or planned it. And then from Houston, I just kept getting calls from people saying, hey, would you consider this job? What do you think? I've actually never applied for one of these jobs. It's crazy. You know, they've all been things where people have reached out and said, you know, would you consider this? To be honest, everything that I applied for, I've never gotten. You know, so this pathway, my family, how we've grown, where we've gone has been really cool, you know, and I've gotten to almost get I would say a master's degree in coaching because I've been some really cool places with some of the best coaches in America. And I've learned so much. And JMU is a place where I got to put all those things together and make my idea.
Now we're not. All right, now we're not muted. All right, so we got to go. We got starting lineup for Georgia. And pomp and circumstance, we're going to hand things off to the SEC Network with Glenn, Jill, and Marion coming up here at the top of the hour. Starting lineups, you got to take a quick peek at it. What'd you think?
Yeah, really quickly. I mean, sticks out to me, Jordan Brown, you know, last year had an injury. It was Follier who was in goal. She started one of the games. So did Jordan Brown. She gets the opportunity to start here at Sanford Stadium senior year. But I mean, it's a stellar roster. You look at Sage Glover, the only goal scorer right now in the 2026 season for the Bulldogs. So hopefully today, Bulldogs get on track and get that firepower going right in front of Sanford Stadium.
So Josh Walters, thanks to JMU. Marion Crowder, thanks to ESPN and SEC Network. And as always, thanks to our friend Jake Stanley here at UGA and helping us with Keidane McAlpine. Last words yours. Let's get us out of here.
Let's get things rolling. This is history. This is an opportunity to just see some really solid women's soccer on both sides for JMU as well as UGA. So make sure you tune in. It's going to be historic.
SEC Network, go there now.